السورة المباركة الفاتحة.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ياسين والقرآن الحكيم إنك لمن المرسلين على صراط مستقيم تنزيل العزيز الرحيم لتنذر قوما ما أنذر آباؤهم فهم غافلون لقد حق القول على أكثرهم فهم لا يؤمنون إنا جعلنا في أعناقهم أغلالا فهي إلى الأذقان فجعلنا من بين أيديهم سدا ومن خلفهم سدا فأغشيناهم فهم لا يبصرون وسواء عليهم أأنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون إنما تنذر من اتبع الذكر وخشي وأجر كريم إنا نحن نحيي الموتى ونكتب ما قدموا وآثارهم وكل شيء أحصيناه في إمام مبين واضرب لهم مثلا أصحاب القرية إذ جاءها المرسلون إذ أرسلنا إليهم اثنين فكذبوهما فعززنا بثالث فقالوا إنا إليكم مرسلون قالوا ما أنتم إلا بشر مثلنا وما أنزل الرحمن من شيء إن أنتم إلا تكذبون قالوا ربنا يعلم إنا إليكم لمرسلون وما علينا إلا البلاغ المبين قالوا إنا تطيرنا بكم لئن لم تنتهوا لنرجمنكم وليمسنكم منا عذاب عليم قالوا طائركم معكم أئن ذكرتم بل أنتم قوم مسرفون وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون أتخذ من آلهة يردني الرحمن بضر لا تغني عني شفاعتهم شيئا ولا ينقذون إني إذا لفي ضلال مبين إني آمنت بربكم فاسمعون قيل ادخل الجنة قال يا ليت قومي يعلمون بما غفر لي ربي وجعلني من المكرمين وما أنزلنا على قومه من بعده من جند من السماء وما كنا منزلين إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم خامدون يا حسرة على العباد ما يأتيهم من رسول إلا كانوا به يستهزئون كم أهلكنا قبلهم من القرون أنهم إليهم لا وإن كل لما جميع لدينا محضرون وآية لهم الأرض الميتة وأحييناها وأخرجنا منها حبا فمنه يأكلون وجعلنا فيها جنات من نخيل وأعناب وفجرنا فيها من العيون ليأكلوا من ما عملته أيديهم أفلا يشكرون سبحان خلق الأزواج كلها مما تنبت الأرض ومن أنفسهم ومما لا يعلمون وآية لهم الليل نسلخ منه النهار فإذا هم مظلمون والشمس تجري لمستقر لها ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم والقمر قدرناه منازل حتى الأرجون القديم لا الشمس ينبغي لها أن تدرك القمر ولا الليل سابق النهار وكل في فلك يسبحون وآية لهم أنا حملناهم في الفلك المشحون وخلقهم من مثله ما يركبون وإن إلا رحمة من إذا قيل لهم اتقوا ما بينكم وما خلفكم لعلكم ترحمون وما تأتيهم من آية من آيات ربهم إلا كانوا عنها معرضين وإذا قيل لهم أكرمكم الله قال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا أنطعم من لو يشاء الله أطعمه إن أنتم إلا في ضلال مبين ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين ما ينظرون إلا صيحة واحدة تأخذهم وهم يخصمون فلا يستطيعون توصية ولا إلى أهلهم يرجعون ونفخ في السور فإذا هم مداث إلى ربهم ينسلون قالوا يا ويلنا من بعثنا من مرقدنا هذا ما وعد الرحمن وصدق المرسلون إن إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم جميع لدينا محضرون فاليوم لا تظلم نفس شيئا ولا تجزون إلا ما كنتم تعملون إن أصحاب الجنة فاكهون هم وأزواجهم في ظلال على الأرائك متكئون لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون سلام قولا من رب رحيم وامتازوا اليوم أيها المجرمون ألم أعد إليكم يا بني آدم أن لا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم ولقد أضل منكم جبلا كثيرا أفلم تكونوا تعقلون هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون ولو نشاء لطمسنا على أعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فأنى يبصرون ولو نشاء لمسخناهم على مكانتهم فما استطاعوا مضيا لا يرجعون ومن نعمره ننقصه في الخلق أفلا يعقلون وما علمناه الشعر وما ينبغي له إن هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين لينذر من كان حيا ويحق القول على الكافرين أولم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عملوا أيدينا أنعاما فهم لها مالكون وذللناها لهم فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع أفلا يشكرون واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة لعلهم ينصرون لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند محضرون فلا يحزنك قولهم إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون أولم يرى الإنسان أنا خلقناه من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلقه قال من يحيي العظام وهي رميم قل يحيي الذي أنشأها خلق عليم الذي جعل لكم من الشجر الأخضر ليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على أن يخلق مثلهم بلى وهو الخلاق العليم إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون. سورة المباركة الفاتحة.
Allah Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. Recite a Surah Al-Fatiha for the soul of نستعين لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين بالقاسم المصطفى محمد. اللهم صل على محمد. ثم الصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين لعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الأولين والآخرين إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد، صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. Mu'mineen, mu'minat, brothers and sisters in Islam and Iman, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. We have been going through and discussing some of the wisdoms, the hikmah, the reasons given in the Quran and the ayat of the Ahlul Bayt regarding some of these practices at the time of death. So previously, we've talked about certain things. For example, the pouring of water on graves. We talked about the proper method of doing so and why it's to be done. We discussed in detail the recitation of Surah Al-Qadr 7 times on a grave. Done. We've talked about the reason for Salatul Mayyit as well as the reason why there's no ruku or sujood, etc. And we've been doing so based on a long hadith as our basis. And this hadith is in a conversation between a companion and our 8th Imam, Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Rida, alayhi salatu wassalam. So we continue where hadith leaves off, and we'll see the next subject matter here. The Imam then continues, So if someone says to you, why is it that you perform ghusl of mayyit? Why do you wash the ones who have passed away? قيل, then what is replied to them? لأنه إذا مات جاس والأذى. Say that when they die, when their intiqal takes place, that they are dominated, they are overcome and overpowered by najasa, these things which are unclean, and afflictions, as well as harms and things which are damaging to them. فَأَحَبَّ أَن يَكُونَ طَاهِرًا إِذَا بَاشَرَ مُسْتَحَبْ, or that it's an object of desire. It's loved that this mayyit is pure, that they are tahir when they are approached by the Ahl Tahara, the people of Tahara, the pure creations, minan malaika. The angels, when they are coming to take care of this soul. الَّذِينَ يَلُونَهُ وَيُمَاسُونَ. These angels who are sent down to attend now to this mayyit, to this soul. Those who are handling this soul, this mayyit. إِنَهُمْ نَظِيفًا مُوَجِّهًا بِهِ إِلَى اللَّهِ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ. So that way, the mayyit, the person who has passed away, they are cleaned while they are now about to be directed and faced towards Allah Azza wa Jalla, the mighty and majestic. وَلَيْسَ مِن مَيِّتٍ يَمُوتْ إِلَّا خَرَجَتْ مِنْهُ الْجَنَابَةِ. And person that passes away, there's no exits from them. It is excreted from them. فَلِذَلِكَ أَيْضًا وَجَبَ الْغُسْلِ. And because of that reason as well, because of that janaba which comes out from the mayyit, this is another reason why dead becomes wajib. Let's discuss this a bit, inshallah. If you can recite a salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. This is just one of many riwayat on things for why al-mayyit is performed. And I chose this one obviously because this is the main hadith that we've been using. Over here, there's basically 2 or 3 different aspects that are being addressed. One is fairly direct, one is indirect, and one you do have to read between the lines and see the commentary that ulama have had to offer. The first is pretty much the most obvious one. You and I know very well that this deen is a deen of hygiene. It's a deen of cleanliness. We are commanded over and over again in every situation, in every place, every time, no matter what's happening, that we are supposed to be as clean, as hygienic, and as beautiful as Baqarah, ayah 222 says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. This is just the end part of the ayah I'm quoting. Inna Allaha yuhibbu perform tawbah. Those who are constantly purifying themselves. So, at the very least, this is talking about a shower, right? Like, not enough pressure. It didn't feel like a real shower, something like that. So, this idea here that Imam and many riwayat describe is that yes, even emotionally there are effects. There are positive effects when we keep ourselves in this state of cleanliness. And yes, as we said before, this extends to other people too. It's obviously the case if someone comes and we notice that there's a stain on their clothing. It obviously sends our mind to a negative place. Now, we shouldn't rush to judge, obviously. We should say maybe they didn't know, they overlooked it. Maybe they forgot to do laundry, whatever it happens to be, right? But mostly our first reaction is not a positive one, right? You see someone, especially in a higher position, you see some little stain, a smell, something like that, it does, kind of make us cringe a little bit, right? We take a step back. So we never want to have that sort of effect on anybody else as well. We want to put them in a state where they do feel, nice to be around us. One more hadith that we'll share. This one is from our 4th Imam, Ali ibn Hussein Zain al-Abidin alayhi salatu wassalam. So this first set of narrations, the ayah of Quran we talked about, was all about the idea of ghusl al-mayyit, or cleanliness in general, is what? It's the point of, being clean is good. That's it. It's pretty much physical cleanliness, and that's one of the reasons behind the ghusl, is that, okay, this is a chance for the body to become clean. No matter how that mayyit, the marhuma, died, doesn't matter. It's one final cleansing, physical cleansing that, that they are owed, basically, right? So now, as we know, there's always a physical, material side to everything, And then there's the more important side, which is the immaterial, the metaphysical, right? The ma'nawi, ruhani style. This hadith has one foot in the physical, material side, but also gives us an idea about how this leads us to the metaphysical and the spiritual. So Imam's reported to have said, إِنَّ الْمَخْلُوقِ لَا يَمُوتُ حَتَّى تَخْرُجْ مِنْهُ النُّطْفَةِ التي خلق منها من فيه أو من غيره. That every single creation, without a doubt, they do not die unless their nutfa exits from them and is excreted from them, right, at the time of death. That same nutfa that all of us have been created from. Either it comes from their mouth or it comes from another place. And in some riwayat it says mouth, it comes ears, etc. Now, this is obviously not being literal in that sense, but it has to do with partially the physical idea and somewhat the metaphysical idea. The physical idea, again, for those who have an idea about what happens post-mortem, right? What happens when a body dies. It does happen many times that there are fluids which are excreted, right? Now, what is there? Again, there's a discussion. I don't feel like going into it. You're welcome to look at the research yourself about what do scientists say, what do doctors say are the fluids, what is being excreted after someone passes away, what is exactly happening. And yes, sometimes these fluids are excreted from mouth, eyes, ears, right? Different things like that. Over here, the Imam is saying that nutfa, meaning that physical and spiritual source that every single one of us has, that is actually exited at the time that we pass away. So the same start that we have, that exits from our body at the time of death. How does it help us lead us into the next point? Let's explain a bit more if you can recite a salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. First, let's start at a kind of a lower level. We were talking about, how most of us, many of you might start your day off with a shower, or before you go to a meeting, before you go somewhere, typically people want to prepare themselves. They might shower, they might clean themselves, right? Put on nice clothing, etc. More importantly for us as followers and lovers of the Ahlul Bayt, alayhimus salam, when we are engaged in ibadat, we obviously take this to another level, right? For example, whenever we perform salah, at the very least, we have to be in the state of tahara, right? Meaning our clothes need to be clean, our body should be clean, right? The soul and body also need to be cleaned by wudu as well, meaning we have to be in that state of spiritual purity as well too. Okay. When we perform certain types of a'mal, it's not wajib, right? Most a'mal, there's no wajib ghusl for it, if anything at all. I don't think there's any amal that's like that. But on many of these famous nights, 15th Sha'ban and others, what do? We perform ghusl, right before we perform this a'mal. So before we engage in heavy ibadah, usually we perform a ghusl. We clean ourselves and wash ourselves. And then more importantly, for those of us, as we mentioned the example of Ziyarat before, most people, what's one of the first things that we do? You land, you get to the hotel, you're not thinking about resting. I'm not thinking about food, nothing like that. Most people, those who are truly lovers of the Ahlul Bayt, they go, perform a ghusl, a mustahab ghusl, they put on the best clothes that they brought with them, and then they go and they run to the haram. That's typically what most Shias end up doing, right? Meaning that even for a ziyarah, I'm going to go meet a pure soul. I'm not going to meet that pure soul unless my body and my soul are also purified as well too. That's what that ghusl is trying to do. An impure soul cannot go and truly meet a pure soul. It doesn't happen like that. Yes, a person cannot do ghusl and go do a ziyarah, but is that ziyarah going to have its ultimate proper effect? Probably not. That's why most people do have this habit where they perform that ghusl and then they'll go for that. Why? Because it's a clean soul which can truly meet another clean soul. And there is no cleaner soul other than the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, right? We have to purify ourselves in that way. Now, sometimes we travel with family. We have young children with us. Now, do we kind of just take them in whatever clothes they are? No, most of us, what do? Now, maybe we don't give them ghusl, although I've heard some families do that, which is an honorable thing. But at the very least, we wash them up, right? We make them presentable. If we brought a thob, jalabiya, kanzu, whatever, we put that on them as well. We get them ready for the ziyarah as well too. On A'mal night, sometimes we get our young children ready for that as well. They have no understanding. They have no idea what they're going towards, but we do, and that's enough. So we prepare them ourselves. So what is this mayyit? This mayyit is like a child now. This mayyit has no ability to cleanse themselves before they're meeting Allah. They're now going forward towards Allah. they're not able to perform that final ghusl for themselves. If you and I knew that we were about to pass away in an instant, we would want to go and purify ourselves, wouldn't we? We do it for the Ahlul Bayt, of course we would do it for Allah as well. So over here, at one level, it's I'm spiritually preparing myself, and this mayyit, this marhum, this marhuma, they cannot do that themselves, so I, on behalf of them, as a duty, because I know that this is what they would want, I'm washing and purifying their body spiritually, just like I would want somebody to get prepared before ziyarah, before a'mal, before salah, whatever it is, because they have the inability, but because I have the ma'rifah and understanding, I will spiritually purify them on their behalf. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Let's go now a bit deeper, a bit higher. To understand this one, it's going to be a bit more complicated. Hopefully you'll be with me. For this, we have to understand, right, the idea of janaba. Right? Janaba, obviously, there are certain actions that are performed and people can enter into the state of janaba. Now, how do we describe what janaba is? Right? A person who is janaba we call junub. Right? Sometimes mujrim, but junub. What is that? We just say spiritually impure. Right? They're impure. But okay, this is clearly something different than being physically impure. Right? It's not just simply I wash my hands and that's it. I'm out of the state of janaba. There's a very specific formula and ibadah that we have to perform for that ghusl of janaba for ourselves, right? And again, we are doing this for the mayyit as well. What is going on over here? Well, we have to understand a deeper meaning and a different meaning and more essential meaning of the idea of being junub or junub. Over here, we can look at how it's also used in the Quran in many places, but I'll give one example. And this is in Surah Al-Qasas, Surah 28, Ayah 11. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. وَقَالَتْ لِأُخْتِي قُصِّيهِ فَبَصُرَتْ بِهِ عَنْ جُنُبٍ وَهُمْ لَا يَشْعُرُونَ. So she said to his sister, this story is, for those of you who can understand the context, this is the mother of Musa alayhi salam speaking to Musa alayhi salam's sister, right? He's been put in that basket, now sent down towards Fir'aun. So she says to what? Go and follow him. Go follow him, and then what? فَبَصُرَتْ بِهِ عَنْ جُنُبٍ. And she went and watched him from what? An junub, from a distance. Junub, the deeper, true, or kind of essential meaning is about distancing yourself from something. And it's to such a degree, which it also says at the end of this ayah, وَهُمْ لَا يَشْعُرُونَ. They had no idea that Musa alayhi salam's sister was watching. No idea. Right? So, junub has to do with a distance that's created that has to do with more than just the physical distance, but there's something intellectual, spiritual, emotional as well. So, for example, the sister of Nabi Musa alayhi salam not only has a physical distance, but those other individuals who are in the house of Fir'aun, they had no idea that she was watching. Right? So they were completely unaware. So it's a very specific kind of distance. That's what it means to be in the state of, to be a junub. Over here, when we say we're in the state of janaba, what that means is that we have performed certain actions. We have done something, or something has been done to us that has caused us to be distanced from Allah. We have this normal distance, this normal ability to talk to Allah, connect with Allah, speak to Allah, communicate with Him, make our du'as, whatever it is. Right? The kind of default position that every person has. But these certain actions then push us far away from Him. And you can imagine, most of these actions have something to do with what? The dunya. These actions which push us away and put us in the state of janaba are dunyawi heavy actions. They require full focus on what? On the dunya. These actions usually require a person to be not focused on Allah whatsoever. So when that happens, what Allah says, like, okay, for these actions in this state, because you've been distanced from me, you must purify yourself before you can even come back to me. You can't come to my masjid. I don't want you reading the Quran. I don't want you looking at certain ayat. I don't want you touching my names. I don't want you doing any of these things. These things are not allowed for you to do anymore. They could be harmful for you. Do not do this because you don't have that closeness to me anymore. This is detrimental for you in this sort of state. And there's many things that a junub is not allowed to do. So because of this dunyawi heavy action, now we require a ma'nawi, a spiritually heavy purification to bring us back to that normal stage, right? To bring us back to our senses, literally. You know, sometimes somebody, when they're in a state of shock, sometimes what people do, if you see in the movies, they splash them with water in their face, right? To kind of get them back to their senses. Over here, these various actions, which puts somebody in the state of janaba, have made them spiritually lose their sense. So this ghusl is supposed to help us spiritually get our senses back and make us worthy once again to be able to speak, commune, and talk and be with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Every opportunity that you and I are given to speak, to be with Allah, to get that closeness, that qurbah, there's some level of purification involved, right? Before salah, at least we said, there's wudu. So obviously, before meeting Allah, there's a final major purification that's required, right? There is no wudu now because now this person is getting ready for that final mulaqat, that final ultimate meeting. So a wudu is not going to handle it. A simple washing of the body is not going to handle it. It's not even just one washing, right? Those of you who know that ghusl has to be done 3 times with a very specific manner, with specific things involved as well too. It's not just a regular, oh, okay, wash the body, it's clean, that's it. No, it's a very, very specific thing. And I don't have time to mention why, camphor and the lotus seed, why all this stuff is used, right? It's a deeper discussion, so we don't have time for that. But khair. The last point of this is what? This final ghusl is a completion of what we'd call a life cycle. What is happening right after a child is born? They wash the child, don't they? Now that washing is a very minimal one, but they wash a newborn child. And even some parents, they will perform, as many of them should, they do perform a ghusl on a newborn child as well, right? Due to the impurities that it has on it. So when a child enters life, that's the first time we as humans created a distance between us and Allah. Right? Before we were close to Allah, we had no dunya that was acting as a barrier. But the minute we enter into this world, now the dunya is our barrier. Now I'm stuck with this body as a block, but it's also my vessel, my wasila, and my medium towards Allah. So it's bittersweet, but that's the way it works. Right? We created that distance the minute we are born. So there's a washing that's required right away. Then, right at the end, what happens too? Now that cycle completes, and now we move on back to Allah. Right? Inna Allahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. We came from Allah, so as soon as we were born, entered into this world, this taklif, this wazifa, all the duties that we have, we're washed right away. And then, as we go for our final meeting, once again, we are washed. But in the washing that is deserving of a Muslim, right? That is deserving of a mu'min or a mu'minah. Someone that is trying to get ready and wants to have this mulaqat with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And at that final stage, the ulama say that, yes, all of this is to the benefit of the mayyit, him or herself. Right? That physical cleanliness, the spiritual cleanliness, so that they can go and meet Allah in that physical and spiritual pure state. And some might say, but isn't the soul gone now? Why do you have to clean the body? Well, some of us, again, without going into details, this time from the moment that the person passes away, that soul has some connection to the body still. It doesn't immediately get removed and is completely disconnected. That's why there's supposed to be gentleness with the body. That's why we recite the tashahhud and shahada while we're carrying the body. That's why we sit with the body, recite Quran. That's why we go and sit, right, at the qabr and we recite things, because that soul and body, this connection has began, but it's not fully split yet. The soul is still not moved on all the way to barzakh yet. That's why most of us know that on the night, Laylatul Dafn, that Salatul Wahshat is important, because that is a night of loneliness that a person needs that Salatul Wahsha from their wali, right, as a form of assistance. Okay. But there's one other thing that we've mentioned in other discussions that matters to us too. Okay, that sounds good and makes sense for that individual, for that marhum and marhuma, that they get this final cleaning physically and spiritually so they can move on to Allah. But what about us? Everything else that we've talked about so far has dual benefits. For that marhum, marhuma, it also has benefits for us too. And everything, as we've said before, it all comes under the same category. It's always a dhikr and tadhakkur. It's always a reminder for us in some way. What is the reminder? I'll quote before we end from Ayatollah Jawadi Almadi Hafidhullah in his Tafsir al-Tasneem. He says that this ghusl of the mayyit is a zikr, it's a tazakkur, it's a reminder that insan must meet their khaliq in a state of tahara. Meaning what? That I am washing this person, I have the ability to do it right now on their behalf. And hopefully that may be covering up shortcomings. The same way when we offer namaz al-mayyit, we are praying for them forgiveness one more time because they don't have the opportunity anymore. We are acting as some degree, we are doing shafa'ah for them. We're saying we'll do the istighfar for you because you can no longer do so. Same way, you cannot clean yourself anymore, so we'll do it on your behalf. But as I'm doing this, I'm also remembering that I need to free myself of stains before I leave this place as well too. Hopefully, and alhamdulillah, we are lucky in this community that there hopefully will be somebody to come and do that for me. But nobody will be taking care of my sins, my masya, my guna. That's on me. Nobody can help me, myself, wash away my own sins. That's up for me to do. So that true ghusl that I have to do is when we do that ghusl of tawbah, as we say, the ghusl of istighfar, is where somebody comes, especially in Ramadan, how it's emphasized many times, that a person, when they're washing themselves, they should feel their guna, their sins, their inclination to all that wash away. So as they're washing this body, they should remember and think about, I should think about myself and say, I need to be able to wash away my sins in this exact same way before it becomes too late and before I have someone else doing it for me. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. For most of us, this is the peak, this is the most that a ghusl can have a meaning of, right? It can extend to helping us remember our own misdeeds, our own sins, our own guna, our own shortcomings. But when it comes to the Ahlul Bayt, even them, when they receive their ghusl, then even there it's a different meaning. Even there it takes on a different hikmat and wisdom. Most of us know that according to most of our ulama, this is why for an imam, only another imam can come and perform that ghusl. No one else has the right to come and perform a ghusl or a namaz or anything like that for another imam. That's where you see all these mu'jizat where the Ahlul Bayt happen at the time of their passing. But sometimes there are ghusls that are so heartbreaking, so destructive, that the ghassal, the person who performs it, they can barely finish performing the ghusl. And on these ayyam, we remember the most difficult ghusl that was performed out of any of the members of the Ahlul Bayt. A ghusl that was performed by a widowed husband. A ghusl that is being performed and aided by 4 young children. You see Ali, Hasan, Hussein, Zainab, and Kulthum. This young family, these young children have lost their mother at such a young age. Of course they have the ma'rifah. Of course they have tawakkul and trust in Allah. But what child can handle the loss of their mother, especially in such a manner? And that ghusl, which was kept secret from everyone else, contained another piece of wisdom as well, but also broke the heart of our Mawla Ali. As we remember, when Imam Ali is performing that ghusl, as he was reminding his children that because of your mother's wish, because we cannot let the munafiqeen, the zalimeen, the fasiqeen, we cannot let them know. Your mother wanted this to be kept secret so that people could know the dhulm that was done to her. Then we have to make sure that we control our voice, that we make sure we do not scream, that we do not cry. And as Mawla Ali is washing the various parts of the beloved body of Sayyidah Fatima, as he reaches the ribs of Fatima, as he realizes that there's some part which does not add up, as he sees that small break in her body, then Mawla Ali breaks his own advice. He falls back to the wall and begins screaming and crying and wailing and says, Ya Fatima, what have you hidden from me? Why did you hide this from me? Imam Hasan and Hussein, Zainab Kulthum asked, Baba, you told us that we could not cry. We couldn't scream. Now why are you doing this? You don't know what your mother hid from me. You don't know the pain that she endured. She cleaned. She made this house nazif and clean, even with this broken rib. This is the secret that your mother left behind. على لعنة الله على قوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون رضا بقضائه وتسليما لأمره. Please recite another Fatiha for the beloved soul of Marhuma, Mehrunnissa, Jaffer, with the salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala. Respected elders, brothers and sisters in Iman, Salamun Alaikum. On behalf of the Managing Committee, Board of Trustees and HIC community, our heartfelt condolences to our chairlady, Sister Ruhi, and Brother Samir Jaffer and family on the passing away of their mother. We pray to Allah to give the family sabr and grant Marhuma a place in Jannah. Ilahi Ameen. Al-Fatiha. Bismillah. A message from Marhuma's family to please forgive Marhuma if she has unknowingly hurt anyone, and please remember her with Namazi Hadiya Mayyat tonight and pray for her. And thanks to all who attended the funeral. Bar Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad salawat. Allahumma salli.
Ziyarat.
السلام عليك يا رسول الله، السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدتي نساء العالمين، السلام عليك يا حسن المجتبى، السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله، وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك، عليكم مني جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بكيت وبكي الليل والنهار، ولا جعل الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين وعلى أخيك العباس وأختك زينب والكلثوم وبنتك سكينة جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا أئمة المسلمين علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا حجة الله يا ابن الحسن يا صاحب العصر والزمان سيدي الأمان 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 من فتنة الزمان. السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن، السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن، السلام عليك يا كعبة الإيمان، السلام عليك يا إمام والإمام الإنس والجان، أجل الله فرجا وسخر الله مخرجا وظهورك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كل وليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.